Antonella, welcome to Halloween Daily. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. My pleasure.
Well, I am super excited to be having this conversation today because we're going to be talking a lot about Terrifier 3, of course. And I've been saying it's the horror movie event of the year. It's a huge story, it's a huge success. And of course, you play a very pivotal role right in the middle of all of it. And so I couldn't be more excited to be talking to you. But before we even get to Art the Clown and all that excitement, as we're recording this, every day is Halloween for us, but as we're recording this, we're literally just a few days away from actual Halloween. So I'd like to start there if it's okay. First of all, do you celebrate Halloween and look forward to it? And if so, how was your Halloween this year?
Yeah, it was amazing. I went last week with a few of my friends. We went house to house. It was amazing. I went as Flora from Winx. Had so
Awesome.
much candy.
That's awesome. I was going to ask that what your costume this year was. That's a good pick. I like
I have
that.
like 20 costumes in mind for next year. I'm
so,
so ready.
so you're like us. You start thinking of next Halloween like as soon as Halloween is over.
Exactly, but then when next Halloween comes, I forget about all of it. It's all out the window, and I have to start thinking of new ones.
Yeah, I can relate. I can understand. Um, Now, is you said you went out trick or treating and with friends? Is Do you have other favorite traditions that you and your family celebrate? Is that your favorite, or what's some of your favorite just Halloween time traditions?
I really like pumpkins. What was these? Like you
Yes,
stuff the pumpkins, you
yes,
carving pumpkins. That's it.
yes.
Like jack-o'-lanterns. I love doing that. Just going to pumpkin patches. So cool.
Yeah, yeah. That's me too. I love the carving and the pumpkin patches and everything. Our family always looks forward to that part. And then we always try to ask when we have the time, what your favorite Halloween costume is that you've worn so far, and your favorite Halloween candy.
All right. Well, I feel like every year my costumes get better. I definitely have a lot of costumes that I look back on and I'm like, what was I thinking? Um, but probably this year's costume because I had huge wings. I had like really pretty like eyeshadow.
Nice.
I went as one of my favorite characters. She's a fairy of nature. I really like that. And as for candy, Halloween is really where I go like actually like eat candy a lot because when it comes to like sweet things, if it's not really in front of me, I don't really like it. Like I don't really think about it. But a candy that I do really like is Nerds gummy clusters. Love
Ah,
that.
that's a good pick. Yeah, I
It's
like
so
that.
I love to pair it with like some sour cream and onion Pringles.
Nice.
The best combo. I'm insane for this, but
There, there you go, everybody. That's a good combo to check out if you haven't already. I think I'm
it's
going to have to check out that combination and see how well they pair together. But it
not
sounds
on
awesome.
top of each other, like separate. You have a
Yes,
few gummies, you have a few Pringles. It's the perfect mix of sweet and salty.
there you go. Yeah, I like it. I like it. I'm gonna have to check that out for sure. Well, it sounds like you've had a great Halloween. Now, before we get into Terrifier, this is not your first acting experience. You've been acting. You're still very early on in your career, obviously. And but when did this kind of begin for you? Was there a point that you remember realizing that you wanted to get into acting and performing, or how did this kind of start for you?
Well, I started around like I was 5 or 6 years old.
Hmm.
I've really always known that this is what I want to do with my life. I've always had such a huge passion for the arts.
Hmm.
So I was very young. I started doing like prints and commercials, and then I got my first network job, which was Candy on Hulu. I played Christina Gore opposite Melanie Linsky and Jessica Biel. It's a true crime, um, true story miniseries. It's good. You should go watch it. And then I got Fear the Walking Dead, and then it started going uphill from there with Terrifier 3, and now A Sudden Case of Christmas, which comes out November 9th.
Yes, you have been definitely busy. Now take us back to getting Terrifier 3. For those of us that aren't in the business, what was the process like that you recall getting cast as Gabbie? Did you have to audition a lot? And do you recall meeting Damien for the first time?
Well, the audition process is always hectic,
Hmm.
but I remember this quite vividly. I did the initial audition, and then it was callback after callback. I had received many, many scenes. I hadn't received the initial script until, was it the last callback or as soon as I got the job?
Hmm.
But there was a lot of research involved into it. So it was mainly just studying my character and backstory of the franchise.
Now, I was going to ask that too. Had you seen the films prior? Were you at all familiar? I mean, because you're awfully young, and these films are very intense. Were you at all familiar with Art the Clown? Had you heard of these films? Had you seen any of the other ones? And when you were doing that research, did you watch the other ones all the way through?
Yeah, well, like I said, I do really do a deep dive when it comes to researching. So I get this mixed up a lot. So I had watched a few clips before I got auditioned because Terrifier is like very popular, and I had been watching so many edits on TikTok. I was like, I remember I said I want to watch that, and then after I had gotten the audition for it, and I was doing my research, I was on my computer doing some homework on it,
Hmm.
and I had seen Art the Clown's face, David Howard Thornton, and I was like, I'm auditioning for that. That's so cool. So I really got to know what I was getting myself into. And then I ended up actually watching. I had watched the second one first, and then the first one with my friends later. The second one I watched while I was filming, and then the first one I had watched after filming because they were like, "Oh, you're doing Terrifier? That's so cool," you know?
Oh yeah, and so you were seeing Art, like you said, on TikTok, and he was already kind of this viral character that was out there even before you saw the films, and then you realized, oh my gosh, I'm stepping into to work with this clown and with this franchise. Now, I was also curious, are you a fan of this type of horror films in general? Do you like scary movies in general?
Yeah, well, now I guess I can say I'm a pretty jaded horror movie fan,
Mhm.
especially after doing
Yeah.
Terrifier. But before, I had already been a pretty big fan of horror movies, but it definitely just went uphill after really being a part of it and of this genre. It really made me appreciate it so much more.
And you play Gaddie, of course. And like I said earlier, this is a very kind of central character in this film. I mean, you're in a ton of scenes. You're working closely with all the main actors and cast members. Um, can for anybody that might not have seen the film, and then we'll go into spoiler territory for. But how would you describe Gabbie for anybody that maybe hadn't seen the film yet?
She's curious, full
Hmm.
of life. She loves and looks up to her older cousin Sienna,
Hmm.
and she's she's very sweet. Yeah, sometimes she can be a little nosy.
Hmm.
That's what I love
But
about her.
yeah, and very smart, too. Also, like you said, sometimes that nosy, but kind of comes in handy every now and then. Now I will put up a spoiler warning. I mean, the film's been out; it's still in theaters actually, as we're talking even still. But for anybody that hadn't seen Terrifier 3, this is where you want to pause, go watch it, and come back because I do want to talk about some somewhat spoilery stuff. But filming, you mentioned how Gabbie looks up to Sienna, and Sienna's such a great character in these films, and we love Lauren's work in it. Let's talk a little bit about that. Working so tightly with Lauren as her niece, and they have this relationship pre-existing before this film, and then it obviously gets a lot deeper in this film. Can you talk a little bit about that and getting to work so close with Lauren and what that was like?
Lauren, she's amazing. She's always been so kind to me and so nice. She's so sweet. She matches my energy very well. I love that about her. And I think it's really great that we had those behind the scenes moment to really bond because I felt like that really helped with our chemistry on set and while filming. And that's what made the bond between Gabbie and Sienna so real.
It does seem genuine when you watch it, and I've seen on like your Instagram, you shared some behind the scenes stuff of you guys dancing and just kind of having fun when the cameras weren't rolling. So it does look like you were having a good time, even though there's all the blood and guts and death on screen. There's a lot of laughs as soon as they say cut. It sounds like.
Mhm.
And of course, Art the Clown himself has become just a horror icon in recent years. And we here at the Halloween Daily News, we've been covering these films, and we've gotten to get to know David a little bit and talk to him a couple times, and a lot of the cast members. And of course, Samantha Scafidi, we just had her on a couple weeks ago, and she's really great in this film. I love everything they did with Victoria. Can you talk a little bit about working with them, with Samantha and David, and obviously they're in their full makeup for when you're having interactions with them, and it's very intense and graphic, everything going on. Can you tell us a little bit about some of your memories of those experiences on set?
I think it's really cool because during this whole experience of filming on set, they've been the kindest to me. They were so afraid that they were traumatizing me. Like after every take, after they say cut, they're like, I am so sorry. Are you okay? Are you mentally traumatized for life? And I was like, no, I'm good. You're amazing. And I love the way that they're so caring. They're such amazing actors, so talented.
That is that is great to hear that they were so concerned about not scarring you for life, because there is some stuff in there that could, and they're giving it their all, obviously. And again, you're right there, and Damien puts Gabbie right in the middle of all of this, which you don't always see a central character of your age right in the middle of these intense scenes. So I think that adds a lot to the tension of the film, especially when it gets to those climactic kind of final moments. What was the most challenging part of filming? Because again, you're in a ton of scenes, and there some of it's action, some of it's involving special effects, and then a lot of it's just emotional, kind of fun stuff with Lauren and the family. What for you though was the toughest part of this shoot?
You'd be surprised how much of it is practical effects, and it's all just like makeup and prosthetic. That's what makes it so cool. But I have to say, the hardest part, that's actually hard to answer because everybody made it so nice and feel like such a safe environment.
Yeah.
Uh, but I guess I have to say there was a scene like there's a lot of stunts,
Hmm.
probably that, but it was all such cool things to do, such amazing experiences.
And on the flip side, I mean, it sounds like you were having a lot of fun. What's your favorite memory? If there is one that you could isolate, what's your favorite memory from the set of this film?
There's so many.
Or you could give us a couple, I guess.
I have one.
Okay.
There's a pretty creepy moment that I experienced. It was, what was it? There was the scene, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, but where Gabbie falls through a portal to hell. I had read the script first and it was saying that she falls through. I was like, OMG, I cannot wait to film this. Anyways, so like about a week before they tell me how they're gonna film, they're like, all right, we're gonna be putting you in a harness, and you're going to be up there, and you're going to get by on a ladder, whatever. And then there comes the day to film, and everybody's like, Antonella, are you scared? Are you nervous? And to go film that scene, and I'm like, I'm counting down the hours for us to film that scene. I can't wait. I've always been so excited to do things like these. I always go on the tallest roller coasters, and then came the time to film the scene, and I was like, oh gee, I'm so ready. And then I film it, and I was like, how did I do? Because I don't remember a single thing. I went straight to my mom and the SAG rep, and I said, how did I do? Because I don't remember a single thing that happened in there. I felt like I blanked out. I just became a different person, you know? Like I really immersed myself into the character. It was really creepy. And my mom, she was so scared for me. I told her to film before. She couldn't even film. She was just filming before, and she didn't even notice. But that was really cool and creepy.
Oh man, it sounds like it, and it sounds like it was intentional. Like you said, you went into a very immersive place in the performance. It sounds like, and it's a harrowing sequence. Again, full spoiler alert, but yeah, I mean, I think anybody watching at this point has seen it, and I mean that whole sequence, and it's just gut wrenching because we're so invested in Gabbie at that point too. We've watched her; she's a new character in this film, but we've gotten to know her throughout pretty much the entire runtime. So it is so gut wrenching. So let's cut now to the film is released. It comes out in theaters, and it opens at #1 at the box office, which I knew I was going to love it. I knew fans of Damien's and of these films were going to love it. But I don't know that anybody could have predicted that it was going to open at #1. And now it's the most successful unrated film ever put in theaters. I mean, this is just a success story. And it's just so cool to see, just as a fan and an audience member. But for you, having worked on the set and kind of come into it, and you did your research, like you said, of learning about this franchise, and so now the film comes out, and you're seeing, oh my gosh, it's #1 at the box office. Tell us what you were feeling and what it's been like in these last few weeks since then, just watching this fan reaction in response to this movie.
Me and my parents, like every single time there's a new magazine or whatever dropping about Terrifier, we're always so shocked and we're showing it to each other like, OMG, did you see that it's at #1? I screamed. I was showing to all my friends. I was like, OMG. I knew that Terrifier 3 had such great potential, and it was gonna be big, but I didn't imagine this huge. And I feel so amazing, and I'm lucky, and I feel like all my dreams have come true.
Well, it's definitely an amazing success story, and I have to say, I mean, your work in it, your performance is great. Like I said, it's very captivating and emotional, and of course, with Damien's style of violence and horror spiked into there, it is a wild ride, but horror fans are loving it. And it's a Halloween movie, but it's also a Christmas movie, so we love it on both ends of the spectrum. But I know you've also got another upcoming project that you mentioned earlier that as we're recording this, it's coming out again in just a few days, and it's a totally different type of Christmas movie. But I'd love to hear a little bit about that. Tell us about this other Christmas film that you have coming out.
Yeah, well, the story is where I play Claire Randall, and the story is Claire's parents take her to Italy, the Dolomites, to visit her grandfather's hotel, where they normally stay in the wintertime for Christmas. But this time, they're going in the summertime. So she sort of already knows something's up, and they break some pretty bad news to her. And she decides that she's going to drag her grandpa into helping her fix this. And she goes on this wild ride of trying to fix her parents' relationship. And there are some pretty big twists and turns, but all that matters is that everybody ends up at home and together and putting all their differences aside for Christmas.
Very cool. Now, did you shoot that before or after Terrifier? I'm just curious.
So I had shot that last year in
Okay.
early June,
Okay.
early June of last year, and then Terrifier was like around March of this year.
Okay. So again, going from one extreme to the other, one type of family-friendly kind of comedy Christmas film to a very intense horror Christmas film. But you're going to be all over screens this Christmas and many Christmases to come, I think, between these films. Do you have other upcoming projects or current projects that you can talk about?
Other than the Christmas movie, I do have something pretty exciting. It's a little too early to talk about yet,
Okay.
but it's really cool. Pretty cool.
So stay tuned, in other words. Can't say anything yet. And of course, I have to ask, talking about future projects. I mean, Damien said, and obviously with that ending, there's going to be more Terrifier. There's going to be a fourth one. And where it leaves Gabbie, I mean, we've got to see what happens to her. Like you said, she kind of falls down the portal into hell, and that's the last we see. Thoughts on the sequel? Hopes for Gabbie? Where we might find her? What state she might be in? Is she going to be okay? Is she going to make it back out of hell? Kind of a resurrection like Sienna had in part two? Any thoughts or hopes or has Damien told you any inside info yet?
Yeah, well, I don't really know anything yet, so I am just as invested in this as everybody else is, and I'm making just as many theories as all the rest of the fans are. But I totally trust Damien and where he's going to lead this character.
Absolutely. Well, we know it's coming at some point. I think it's not a matter of if, it's definitely just a matter of how soon or when, if he's going to do another project before or in between. And we'll definitely be looking forward to it. And they got to bring you back. I have to imagine they have to. You're part of this now, and that leads into my next question, because we've been lucky enough to talk to so many of your co-stars, not just from Terrifier 3, but from all three of the films, and we've had Damien on here, and we've watched this whole kind of Art the Clown phenomenon just rise and rise to the point where, as we were saying, it was #1 at the box office. It's still in theaters. It's breaking records. And Art the Clown was everywhere this year. At Spirit Halloween, there were animatronics. At Party City, he's in Walmart now. I mean,
No, but Walmart,
what does that feel like for you, just knowing that you're a part of this huge thing that is huge now and is going to just keep growing? I don't think there's any end in sight for where the Art the Clown franchise goes from here.
You're talking about the costumes too. I have seen like 3 or 4
Yes.
Art the Clowns just when I was trick-or-treating this year. I am completely loving all this Terrifier merch. I have my Art Krispies cup right here, and
It's awesome.
Terrifier.
Oh,
Sure,
love it.
I am
Love it.
decked out in merch everywhere. I'm going to Spirit Halloween everywhere trying to find new stuff. I'm definitely gonna have to go check out Walmart for some new stuff.
Yes.
I'm just
Yeah.
collecting everything.
Yeah, we're loving it too. It's crazy. And again, I mean, these films, they're going to be go-to films, not just, I mean, they're go-to films anytime, but especially around these holidays now, because they are kind of tied to Halloween and now to Christmas. And they're going to be films that, people will put in their annual rotations and watch like every year in some cases. Have you thought about that at all? That you're going to be part of that? Like horror fans like me are going to be watching these films, probably like Terrifier 3 will be a go-to Christmas time movie for us.
Wow, just thinking about it is so eye-opening to me, and it's so insane. I'm loving all these great heights that this franchise is reaching. And I have rewatched Terrifier 1 and 2 so many times, so I can only imagine how much I'm gonna rewatch number 3. I'm so grateful.
And I know, I don't know if you've been making any convention appearances yet, but I know that's going to be coming too at some point. I have no doubt. And fans are going to look forward to interacting and getting to meet you and you signing for them and all that stuff. And I know that's going to be coming if it's not already. And that's going to be an awesome experience. I imagine for you. And again, I only say that having talked to David and Lauren and Samantha and so many of these your co-stars that and watching them come into this franchise and it's just blowing up. Um, are you ready for that? Are you ready to see people cosplaying as your character?
I have even thought about cosplaying as myself.
There you go.
I just need I already have the clothes in my closet. All I need to do is bloody them up.
That's
I
it.
am I am so grateful for all of this, and I'm so excited for what's to come.
Awesome. Well, I am too, and I know all of our audience is beyond excited. And again, I mean, your work in Terrifier 3, it is so good. You know, we just love Gabbie, and we want to find out what is going to happen in part 4. So
Yeah.
we will definitely. This will not be our last conversation. We are going to be here, and we're going to be talking about any of these upcoming projects, but especially more Terrifier when the time's right for that.
I cannot wait. This is
It's
so. Go
abs-
watch Terrifier 3 in theaters. Don't let the magic of cinema die.
yes, that's a good point. I mean, again, I mean this film is proven a lot of naysayers wrong, I think, and it's inspiring the fact that it went in the theaters unrated without a major studio behind it, without a huge budget, and you know it's breaking records. It's success. It's still in theaters even as we're talking like 3 weeks later. Um, and like you said, don't let the magic of cinema die. You know, because that's a big part of that is going out and experiencing it with a crowd of like-minded people that love all of this insanity like we do.
You said that
Um,
very. Yeah.
yeah, well said, absolutely. Well, again, Antonella, this has been awesome just hanging out and talking to you. And I know it won't be our last conversation, like I said, but I can't thank you enough. Again, you're great in the film. Everybody, if you haven't seen it, it's still in theaters. What are you waiting for? Go see it right now. And then look forward to rewatching it every Christmas, every Halloween, and every month in between. And because Art the Clown is not going anywhere. But this has been awesome. Thank you again so much for hanging out with us.
Thank you so much for inviting me here. It's been awesome.
My pleasure. And even though we just celebrated Halloween according to the calendar, it's always Halloween for us. So instead of saying goodbye, I always just wrap up by saying Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.